Intel can't sell some of their CPUs in Germany. Apple and Google start the AI wars, and why is this still happening with these graphics cards? Why are they still melting? Let's get in the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're going to be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Friday, February 9th, 2024. We're going to start off today talking about a little legal tiff that Intel happens to find themselves in over in the country of Germany, specifically with regards to some of their processors in Tiger Lake, Ice Lake, and Alder Lake. They've been banned from selling in the country because of violated patents against a company known as R2 Semiconductor, specifically with the patent being violating the technology that goes into voltage regulation. And this applies across consumer laptops all the way up to servers with the Ice Lake server setups. And this is something that Intel has known was coming since September of last year. And it appears that Intel obviously is going to try to appeal this and get this fixed. And some of these things seem a little weird, especially because Intel saying that R2, which appears to be a shell company whose only business is litigation, should not be allowed to obtain injunctions on CPUs and other critical components at the expense of consumers, workers, national security, and the economy. Whereas R2 says that they're delighted that the highly respected German court has issued an injunction and unequivocally found that Intel has infringed R2's patents for integrated voltage regulators. All of this doesn't apply to some of the more modern CPUs that Intel's put out, such as Raptor Lake or their Refresh or Meteor Lake or anything like that. But one of the weird, again, behind the scenes thing that's been going on is that R2 has sued Intel across multiple companies, but specifically here in the United States, R2's patents were deemed invalid so that they couldn't actually sue Intel, even though that they were trying to get that to happen. So this appears to be weird. Intel does appear to be against the patents, but R2 is just buying the patents. It's weird that they're trying to enforce it instead of actually just getting the money. Being able to block the CPUs from being sold is kind of an interesting move. We'll keep you updated as all of this continues to develop here on Hot News. But there's a lot developing on the AI side of things. One of the big announcements yesterday was that Google is replacing Bard with Gemini. Finally, this is going to be happening. We all kind of knew it was coming, especially after the rush launch of Bard last year to just abysmal results and them making a fool of themselves on the main stage with it getting factual things wrong, hallucinating all over the place, and people generally not necessarily using it. But with Gemini, it appears that it's going to have a lot more integration than Bard did, including being able to replace your Google Assistant on your phone if you happen to have an Android device. Google CEO saying that Bard has been the best way for people to directly experience our most capable models. To reflect the advanced tech at its core, Bard will now simply be called Gemini. It's available in 40 languages on the web, and it's coming to a new Gemini app on Android and on the Google app on iOS. So with it replacing the assistant, it can do a whole bunch of different AI things that could be done, as well as just the regular assistant things that you would want it to do, like make phone calls, set timers. However, Google does say that it doesn't have all of the assistant features. You're going to have to wait a little bit for that to happen. But also with the launch of Gemini, just the basic one replacing Bard and being available on device, they also launched some more capable models, such as the Ultra 1.0 model through Gemini Advanced. Now, this is supposed to be the one that's going to compete with ChatGPT 4 and making it so that they have a large language model that is commercially available and can do a lot of the more capable things, and as opposed to just briefly running on device to get a few things done. And they're going to be charging $20 a month for this, which is roughly the same price as getting one of the basic plans with ChatGPT, as well as getting Copilot Pro. And you can see here that it's a new AI premium plan that also includes 2 terabytes of storage with Google. And then it'll also give you Gemini and Gmail, Google Docs, as well as a few other Google apps that are out there in case you want to integrate it into your workflow on that side. Google hasn't really compared itself very much to GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 in recent weeks or recent months, so it's hard to know exactly where the capabilities of Gemini lie compared to the competition that's out there, but it definitely seems like competition is going to be heating up in the AI space, with the commercial viability being made known to all of these large companies. I think one of the key questions that I have is just how is adoption going to work as the pricing structure gets weird. Some of it's going to be available for free, then some of the more advanced models are going to be held behind paywalls. Does that trickle down to where if you just wait long enough, you're going to get what is currently the most advanced model on a local device for free in the future? Or is this going to be something where these companies are financially incentivized in order to just try to force it behind a paywall and you have to pay in order to get anything that's usable. I'm just really curious to see how the economics of this plays out, because one of the beautiful things about Google Start was that it was free. You could use Google search. You didn't have to pay for it. But now that they're launching a product where you have to pay for it in order to get the capabilities, just creates the software side of thing just seems a little odd, especially since I do tend to view AI and the generative capabilities of this to be kind of on par with what search is rather than other things. So I don't know, maybe my mind's a little bit mixed up on it, but I'm curious to hear your take on that down below. But Apple's take on large language models is not a complicated one. They're not really talking a lot about it publicly, but they did finally launch an AI model that allows you to edit images based on text inputs. So this is a multimodal large language model that they just launched on GitHub after working with a university on this, so that you can type in things and it'll modify an image for you. So kind of with generative AI, but it's not too fancy. You can check it out if you want. There's demos available. Apple not talking a whole lot about it, but people investigating what is exactly Apple doing when it comes to their AI movements. And it turns out they're buying more AI startups than any other company. According to a report, they have purchased at least 32 companies in 2023 when it comes to AI startups, which puts them ahead of Google, which has 21, Meta had 18, and Microsoft had 17. So Apple appears to be making a lot more waves and splashes behind the scenes on the AI side of things. And that was also kind of clear in the Vision Pro launch as well. They don't talk a whole lot about AI during their keynotes, but I saw in an interview with Tim Cook, he talked about how AI and machine learning made the Vision Pro possible, especially with just processing your environment. And I was like, I think it's one of the first times I've heard him publicly discuss AI and machine learning. But this report does indicate that Apple is just identifying the fact that they need to be part of the AI startup scene a lot earlier than the rest of the competition, so they're making moves before everybody else is. And Apple commented that they buy smaller technology companies from time to time, and they generally do not discuss their purposes or plans, so it's left for us to speculate what exactly is going to go on with them, whereas a company like Google will just rush things out the door, and we'll have to just be like, oh, remember Bard? It existed for a year, and then they got rid of it. There's a reason Google's graveyard is a meme. But what is also a meme is Reece with the yummy yummy deal master thing, so he's gonna give you some deals.
Yo, welcome back to UFD Deals, bringing the hottest tech deals out on the internet. Happy Friday, everyone. Hope you guys are having a great start to your weekend and, great start to some deals. Because first up, we have the Summer SM68 65% wireless hot swappable mechanical keyboard going for only $35.99, making it $64 off, and it's gorgeous. Then next up, we have the FlashForge Adventure 5M 3D printer for only $299, making it $200 off. And then lastly, we have this amazing Acer Predator 27-inch 1440p 240Hz OLED gaming monitor for only $699.99, making it $300 off. And hey, with that, the deals are done. You can find these and more linked in the video description down below. But until next time, I'm handing you off back to Brett for the rest of your hot news. Enjoy your weekend. Cheers.
Well, Reece, people think Funimation is giving them a bad deal because it's going to be shutting down as of the beginning of April. Funimation, which I found out is owned by Sony, acquired Crunchyroll, but they're shutting down their side of things to bolster their Crunchyroll app and make it so that there's a lot more content available on that platform. So on April 2nd, Funimation is going to be shutting down its services, but also on top of this, which is going to bother a whole lot of people, is that if you own digital copies of things like DVDs and Blu-rays, you're going to lose access to those too, because Crunchyroll's functionality does not allow them to actually play it. So this is the second time within the last few months that Sony has been behind people losing their content. Now that other one with Discovery or whichever company it was got resolved because they worked out the licensing rights to that, but this appears to be a technological software issue, and it doesn't appear like it matters enough to them for them to fix it. Funimation said, "We are continuously working to enhance our content offerings and provide you with an exceptional anime streaming service. We appreciate your understanding and encourage you to explore the extensive anime library available on Crunchyroll," which appears to be just a deflective answer on just removing content that people paid for, which, speaking of, it looks like people are going to have to pay a higher price for Crunchyroll. According to some reports out on the internet, if you're part of a grandfather plan on Funimation, your price is going to go up a lot. One user said from $55 a year all the way up to $100. Other people are seeing increases from $6 a month all the way up to $10 a month. It appears to be a brutal shift overall. I'm not really a connoisseur of anime. I don't have any subscription services. I don't watch anything on Kiss Anime. I'm curious if you do. Does this bother you? How's this Crunchyroll thing shaking out to you? Let me know down below in the comments. But one of the updates that we're also getting on the GPU side of things, AMD releasing some patch notes over on Linux that indicates that RDNA 4 is getting more ready to launch. Hopefully this will be the RX 8000 series of GPUs, and there's just some new technology and new like little updates that they're bringing to Linux when it comes to RDNA 4. None of this is super special, none of this is vastly different than what's existed before, but it does indicate that they're moving along in the pipeline on launching RDNA 4, likely sometime this year. And Nvidia should potentially unlaunch their GPU connectors because it's just continuing to be a problem. We've talked in previous episodes about how more and more RTX 4090s are being found to burn out, and we talked previously about how CableMod issued a voluntary recall for their adapters for the 16-pin power connector because it was causing melting, and now it turns out that this has to be an official recall because of just all of the damage that has gone on behind the scenes with this. It appears that there's roughly a 1% failure rate with these adapters, but that has led to 272 user reports of damage and roughly $75,000 in property damage. However, none of that indicates bodily harm or any sort of fires that we're aware of. No, but because this is dealing with high power, high wattage, there could potentially be a much worse situation in the future just from things going the wrong way in just the wrong way enough that it causes more damage than you would typically see on regular errors. So CableMod having to issue an official recall, and this is part of the Consumer Product Safety Commission here in the United States. CableMod's already been on top of this, but part of the blame does not lie with them. It lies with Nvidia for rushing forward with the 16-pin power connector. The 12V horsepower connector just wasn't ready for mainstream. It doesn't have enough fail-safes to make sure it's not going to cause some damage when things are going wrong, when the temperature's too high, when there's too much juice flowing through it. I'm just curious, at what point does this change? Are we going to have to just continue to talk about this for a while? There have been small updates in the 12V horsepower version 2, but I've also read reports, and I believe a couple of people have done teardowns on the entire situation to prove that no matter what's done, the cables are just too small, there's not enough protection here, and that we were on a system that worked. The 8-pin and 6-pin power connectors were over-engineered, which is why you basically never heard of anything going wrong with them unless you were using like a Molex adapter, and instead what we got was an under-engineered piece of technology that's delivering more power than typically we've ever done to graphics cards before, and it's causing other companies like CableMod to have to go through things like issuing recalls. It's problematic, which sometimes your comments are, so let's go ahead and read those on comment response. We got Fragalot saying, I recently cut the cord on cable TV in our home and bought a cheap DTV antenna for about 25 bucks that connects to our LCD TV, and we can still watch local TV and local sports, all ready for the Super Bowl this weekend. It's good to know. I know that you can get a lot of service on local stations, but there's still also plenty of other things in case you're not in a local market. You want to watch a specific game with a specific team, but you know, in Pittsburgh it happens to be blacked out for one reason or another. You have to find alternative methods, and that's why streaming can bring that in. Additionally, things like F1 or other sports that are out there, people tend to continue to try to watch those on their television. So having this streaming plan that offers that seems like it might finally get people off of cable providers entirely. Then we got KTVX saying, dang, I never thought about the color scheme of PlayStation, Nintendo, Microsoft plus Nvidia, AMD, Intel. I know, that's what I'm saying. Everything's mismatched. The colors don't coordinate. It's a little frustrating. We got Goner Relay saying, oh my, somehow the googly eyes are less creepy than the standard screen eyes. They are absolutely less creepy. It makes it seem like I am looking at you where I'm wearing my Apple Vision Pro with the googly eyes. There's actual eye contact even if I'm in my immersive environment. It's at least fun. Then yesterday I talked about just the security doorbell news and asking you what type of security doorbell situation do you have, because I'm just trying to plan, you know, some little ventures out to your house. Tim Wickblad saying, I built and 3D printed my own doorbell camera setup, hidden in the name tag in the form of a minion on the door. It has motion detection, recording, and is powered by a huge power bank via USB-C. The camera has night mode and wide angle. Hey, that's amazing. I'm glad to hear that it's working out for you. And I also asked about your hair care routine, which several of you indicated that you're bald, so you don't necessarily need shampoo. Then we got Deb saying, I use a 10-in-1 shampoo. Shampoo, conditioner, body wash, soap, lotion, shaving cream, toothpaste, detergent, motor oil, and lube. That's a very versatile piece of liquid you got there. Vibe Fox saying, security, I'm Canadian. She's unlocked by, come on in, tell me about your day. That's fair. One of the reasons that I installed a security camera was not necessarily for security reasons. It was so that I didn't have to venture to my front door to see if a package got delivered. Just saving that extra little trip back and forth was very nice, especially in a multi-story house like we have here. From leaving the basement to go upstairs to see if there's been a delivery, it's just a little bit more of a trek than I always want to make, which makes me seem very lazy now that I'm thinking about saying that out loud. Then we got Glartemy saying, am I the only one who thinks that Brett is an Apple fanboy? Then Genocide Hero says, probably. Don't trust anyone that drives Apple products, personally. Not their tech reviews, at least. Not that he reviews tech. Then Contanse saying, I guess someone having a differing opinion from you is unheard of. I mean, I don't like Apple myself, but that's my views and mine alone. I'm nowhere like near an Apple fanboy. I think one of the things that I am is an ardent supporter of the fact that the reductive and dismissive arguments that people use from Apple are wrong and stupid. Just being like, everybody who uses an Apple device is an idiot. No, they're not. There's plenty of legitimate reasons to use Apple devices, even if they don't apply to your life and they don't apply to your use cases. They apply to some people's, which is why they use them. And you can get all offensive and kind of dismissive of those people, but their reasons can be as valid as yours. But a lot of times people like to determine on the internet that they're the arbiters of approving whose use cases are valid and whose are not. And I've come to the conclusion, for my workflow and the things that I want to do, Apple has a lot of good products for that. Having a MacBook Pro that has wicked fast performance on battery so that I don't have to be tied down to the wall like I am on a Windows laptop is a much better experience for my business. It actually is good for me. And I have a few other Apple products that I enjoy using for my personal life and for my business life. I don't need a lot of the features and a lot of the things that people say they enjoyed Android for using. That just doesn't apply to me. However, I'm not locked into the Apple ecosystem. I will regularly and continually try out new devices. I was on the Pixel Fold for a little bit last year, as well as the Z Fold 5. We have the OnePlus 12 that we actively use. Kyler's reviewing the S24 Ultra right now. Is that why you're squeaking at me? He wants to be heard. What?
Apple shell.
Get back in your kennel. I think my approach is that I am constantly trying to investigate what is best for me, which happens to be things that differ from what you use. That doesn't make me a fanboy. I'm not going to just guarantee that I'm always going to be on Apple. I'm regularly evaluating, are my needs being met by the choices that I'm making in tech? And one of the benefits of my job is that I get to try out a lot more than I otherwise would. And so I get to make informed decisions for myself, and then I can also inform other people's decisions if I happen to talk about them. But I fully recognize a lot of this is personal choice, but I also just don't abide by the fact that if you want to be in tech, you can't use Apple. Apple has legitimate use cases. I think it's a fanboy argument to think that I'm an Apple fanboy because I choose to use them, not that I'm indoctrinated in using them. Just because I happen to have a lot of their stuff, again, doesn't mean that I can't appreciate their faults. I can't call them out for things that they do wrong. I can't see where they're making many mistakes. But I also don't fall prey to the other side, which is being a fanboy of hating Apple, which just is the same logical fallacy on the other side. Apple does legitimately impressive things, especially when you consider the scale at which they do them. But I'm an Apple shill. What does it matter? I'm a shill. That's my categorically unvibable bud over there. And I'll unvibe you on Monday with more of the hottest tech news.